Earlier today, the UFC announced a lot of big fights for UFC 298 and UFC 299, and I had a look at the UFC 299 card, and this card is stacked. This is going to be a massive card, but I've got a feeling it might get even bigger, because I think that the UFC isn't done adding to this card. Obviously, there's only 7 fights, but I think they're getting a different main event. Look at Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. That's a pretty good main event. Sean O'Malley's a big name. Marlon Vera's a pretty big name in his own right. They've got history. That will make things interesting. And overall, this card is pretty stacked. But you go to the UFC's website and you go to their events page and you have a look at all of the events that they do have going on. And you will see that every numbered event, UFC 298, Volkanovski versus Topuria, 297, Strickland versus Duplessis, all of the other fight nights have names. But they've recently adjusted the website from O'Malley versus Vera 2 to be decided versus to be decided. Is the UFC thinking of cooking up something different? Are we going to get a different main event? Is it going to be Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje, or maybe even something completely different? Maybe they even get like Alex Pereira on the card defending on something. Maybe Tom Aspinall. I don't know. I think that there is potential for something else, because we know that there's probably a pretty good chance that UFC 300 is going to be headlined by Conor McGregor or Jon Jones. It's most likely going to be one of those two headlining the card. So what are they doing for 299? Because I've got a feeling this might not be the main event anymore. So I wanted to kind of speculate on that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if there is any fighters you think that could be that main event. But now let's talk about this card, because honestly, O'Malley and Vera is a good enough main event as it is. That's a pretty good main event, but maybe they just don't think that O'Malley's star power is enough to draw big pay-per-views yet. Maybe the Sterling versus O'Malley card didn't sell as big as they thought it would. Maybe O'Malley's not as big as they hoped he would be right now. And they're definitely trying to build up his name, because I do believe that Marlon Vera is a very winnable matchup for him to get a title defense. And then they can go on to maybe some more nightmare matchups like Sanhagen, Merab, maybe even Henry Cejudo if he beats Merab. There was another fight that was announced recently. You go down to what's currently the co-main event, but probably isn't going to be. They might make the co-main event O'Malley versus Vera, or if it's the main event, they might add like a women's title fight, maybe like Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan, or something along those lines. We've got Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now the source is Benny P MMA, and he said that there's a chance that this fight is also in the works for UFC 298. So there is potential that this fight doesn't happen on this card, but this is a fight that is in the works. It is officially in the works, coming from Benny P himself. He has a YouTube channel, check it out. Good source for Australian MMA, and pretty good MMA YouTuber as well. Then you go down, we've got the rebooking of Curtis Blades and Jailton Almeida. I like it. I didn't think Jailton Almeida had the most impressive performance when he took on Derek Lewis, because at the end of the day, that was a pretty good stylistic matchup for Jailton Almeida, and he wasn't able to capitalize at all like he has been able to in previous matchups. Like, he's dominated Rosenstrike, he dominated Abdurakhimov, he dominated Turkalj, dominated Parker Porter as well. I mean, we know that Jailton Almeida is really good, but maybe he's actually not going to be good enough to beat Curtis Blades. So that makes this fight way more interesting, I think, now than it was before when it was going to be in Brazil originally. And now we've got Mateus Gamrot taking on Rafael dos Anjos. It's a fight that was just announced. I didn't realize RDA was committing to 155 still. He literally has said multiple times he's going to fight at welterweight. So let's see how he goes with the weight cut. Maybe he didn't think that he was going to go too well at 170 anymore. I don't know. But he's fighting Gamrot. And what does that leave? Dustin Poirier versus Arman Tsarukyan. Because I said that Gamrot versus Poirier could be a potential fight to make. Maybe Poirier is going to fight Tsarukyan. Maybe they're going to make him do it. I don't know. But then you got Munoz versus Phillips on the prelims. That's a big fight. CJ Vergara versus Asut Almabayev. Not really a massive fight, but still a pretty big fight nonetheless, because Asut Almabayev is a very impressive prospect. He was one of the big signings that the UFC did in 2023. One of 2 big Kazakhstan fighters as well, because they signed Asut Almabayev and Azat Maksum. And Azat Maksum is the guy that's like 17-0 or something absolutely crazy, which is awesome. And Almabayev looks really good in his debut, beat Ode Osborne by submission. I think that Almabayev could be a guy that is going to be a bit of a threat to the rankings in the future. And then you've got a pretty big matchup as well, Caitlin Chookagian and Macy Barber. Macy Barber, of course, coming over that knockout win over Amanda Ribas, which is massive. And now she's taken on Chookagian, who was the #1 contender for so long, and she just lost to Manon Fiorot. And that fight kind of has granted Manon Fiorot the title shot. So maybe if Macy Barber beats Chookagian by finish, she's going to be one fight away from a title shot herself. So I think there's definitely a lot kind of going on in this matchup. This is a good fight. Very, very highly ranked women's flyweights, which is a pretty fun division. Macy Barber's got a lot of momentum right now after she did lose a couple of times early on. Chookagian's got to try and get back to another win so she can maybe get another title shot in the future. A bit of stakes on with that matchup there. If you do look at it though, I'm looking forward to this card. This main card is good. Gamrot RDA, not the biggest fight in the world, especially with RDA being a little bit older now and Gamrot being a guy that doesn't really put on the best fights, but still a good fight, a fight to look forward to. Blades and Almeida, high stakes matchup, you know, because if Blades beats Jailton Almeida, I think he would only be on a 1-fight win streak, but Espinal is the champion, right? Yeah, and Espinal's the champion, and he technically beat Espinal. That is a rematch that they could sell, for sure. Now, would it be a rematch that they would sell because Curtis Blades is 1-0? No, definitely not, but the way that they could sell it is, let's see what would have happened in the fight. And I think that Tom Espinal would be open into fighting Curtis Blades again, because he's already done a training camp for him. You could even do that in London, maybe do a pay-per-view in London, because let's be real, Tom Espinal's probably not going to be able to unify the belt for ages, because John Jones is going to sit out for so long. I want to see Espinal be active. I want to see Espinal fight Curtis Blades if he beats Almeida. I want to see him fight Almeida if he beats Blades. Or maybe they're doing something in Europe somewhere and they're going to do Espinal versus Gane. Maybe that's what they're trying to cook up for the main event. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think that would be a higher selling main event than O'Malley versus Vera. So that might have to be the co-main. Who knows? But anyway, and then you got Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Working my way back up the card after it works down. Great fight. Tough fight for both guys. You know what I mean? Because JDM, we have seen his wrestling defense exposed a little bit by someone that did take him on very, very short notice, was Basil Hafez. Now, to be fair, JDM had to cut weight twice, but it wasn't a good performance. And Gilbert Burns, if he goes out there trying to get the wrestling going, trying to get the grappling going, he could have a lot of success over JDM. JDM had a really good performance in a striking matchup with Kevin Holland, but now he's going to have to go back and just get that takedown defense going. You know, he's going to have to defend takedowns against Burns. Burns is going to try and grapple him. Burns is almost 38 years old. I don't see Burns thinking at this point in his career, you know what, let's strike with the striker. I think Burns really wants to get that belt. That's always kind of been what he's trying to do. He wants that belt. He just lost a fight to Bilal Muhammad where he was injured. Now he's going to come out there. If he beats JDM, and if he beats someone else, then maybe he can try and get another title shot. There's a lot going on here for JDM. If JDM beats Gilbert Burns, I think that they'll probably do Jack Della Maddalena versus Shavkat Rakhmonov for a title shot. And that would be nuts. Maybe they do JDM versus someone else. Maybe they can do him versus maybe Sean Brady. I don't know. Whoever's going to be in the running at that point. It's a good fight. JDM's active as well, man. He's fought 5 times in a year and a half. I love the activity out of JDM, man. I've got to respect it. I think everyone should respect JDM for how often he fights. And then the main event, I think that Sean O'Malley does knock out Chito Vera. I think Marlon Vera, he loses fights until he wins them. You know, that's just kind of his style, and I just don't think it works against a guy like O'Malley. Now, yes, he's going to be a tough stylistic matchup because he can grapple, he does move forward, he can get takedowns. But I think O'Malley is going to be too accurate for him, you know. Marlon Vera gets hit. I see Sean O'Malley hitting him. It's that simple. I think Sean O'Malley touches him. I think Sean O'Malley knocks him out. Maybe round 3 after a lot of leg kicks. So, yeah, that's my predictions for the card. I didn't expect to do a prediction video, but hey, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.